Utah Real Estate Licensing Law, Chapter 2, License Types. In this chapter, we will discuss the different license types and how to maintain a real estate license. We begin with license types. Utah offers 3 different real estate licenses: principal broker, associate broker, sales agent. Pre-licensing education. As we mentioned, sales agent candidates must complete a 120-hour pre-license course. The curriculum is set by the Real Estate Commission and must be completed at a school approved by the Commission and the Division of Real Estate. Once a candidate completes the education requirement, they have 1 year to license. If they do not license within 1 year of completing the education requirement, they must satisfy the education requirement again in order to license. Only 2 situations exist which would allow a licensing candidate to waive out of the education requirement. 1. Licensed in another state. If a candidate was or is licensed in another state with similar education requirements, the division may grant a waiver for part of the education requirements. The candidate will most likely still need to complete the Utah-specific portion of the education requirement. 2. Member of the Utah Bar. Members of the Utah Bar will receive a waiver of the education requirements. Pre-licensing exam. After completing the education requirement, licensing candidates must pass a pre-license exam. Currently, applicants must pass the exam with a score of 70. The exam consists of 2 portions: a general national portion and a state-specific portion. If a candidate has been actively licensed for the previous 2 years in another state with similar education requirements, they may be able to obtain a waiver of the national portion of the exam. Utah Bar members must pass the exam despite obtaining a waiver of the education requirement. If a candidate only passes 1 portion of the exam, they may retake just the portion they did not pass, as long as they do so within 6 months of the original examination date. Candidates must license within 90 days of passing the exam. Criminal history. 2 different standards exist for evaluating an applicant's criminal history. One requires a clean record for 5 years, and one requires a clean record for 3 years. 5 years. An applicant may not have been convicted of, entered a plea in abeyance to, completed any sentence of confinement on account of any felony within 5 years of the license application. 3 years. An applicant may not have been convicted of, completed any sentence of confinement on account of any misdemeanor involving fraud, misrepresentation, theft, or dishonesty within 3 years of the license application. Broker's license. Utah law requires all companies to have a principal broker at all times. The principal broker is ultimately responsible for everything that occurs within the real estate brokerage. If a sales agent whom a principal broker is responsible for is disciplined by the division, the principal broker may also be disciplined even though the principal broker did not participate in the events leading to the discipline. We will discuss later ways a principal broker may mitigate their liability, but they do have a responsibility for the actions of any agents affiliated with them. If a company loses its principal broker, the company is considered to be inactive, and all agents associated with that company are considered to be inactive until a new principal broker is found. Again, all brokerages must have a principal broker at all times. If an individual holds a broker's license, they may act as either a principal broker or an associate broker. An associate broker is simply someone who holds a broker's license but is not acting as a principal broker. An associate broker does not incur the liability associated with acting as a principal broker. Branch offices. A brokerage may choose to open branch offices. All the offices still fall under the responsibility of the principal broker. However, the branch must have a branch manager who holds a broker's license. Because this individual is not acting as the principal broker, they would be considered an associate broker. An associate broker may act as branch manager, sometimes referred to as the branch broker. A branch broker does not have the same liability as the principal broker, but does have more liability than an associate broker not acting as a branch broker. The branch broker is responsible for the actions of all the licensees and unlicensed staff affiliated with the branch. Qualifying for a broker's license. The requirements for obtaining a broker's license may be broken down into 3 categories. 1. Experience. 2. Education. 3. Examination. Broker experience. In order to satisfy the experience requirement, broker applicants must satisfy 2 requirements: time and transactions. Broker applicants must have at least 3 years of full-time experience as a real estate sales agent before obtaining a broker's license. Generally, this requirement is satisfied by documenting time as a licensed agent.